Hello, my name is Emma and welcome back to It Gets So Lonely Here. So last time she took us in for a dip and I'm pretty sure we're gonna drown, and I'm still pretty sure we're gonna drown, so let's see if we drown. The water rushes forward to meet you in a sudden shocking rush. The mermaid's descent might be graceful, but yours is anything but. You do not know how to position your legs, you can see them flailing in the corner. Your limbs feel awfully ungainly. You were never a water creature. The shock of the water as it touches your skin, meanwhile, is intense. You did not think that the water would be this cold. No, it's not just cold, it is freezing. It feels as though all the warmth has been sapped out of your skin. If your head had not already been beneath the ocean waves, you would have gasped from it. You do not gasp, however. You cannot, or else you'll swallow water and drown. You have already been submerged. Your body no longer feels as though it is your own. Your hair is unspooling behind you like a thread, and your skirt is fluttering. Your body rocks to and fro as though being soothed in a mother's arms. It is a curious feeling. Also, that's a lot of drag from your clothes, man. But it is not wholly unpleasant. It is only if it were not so cold here, beneath the ocean's depths, you might find it relaxing. It is dark under the surface of the water, yes, but you have not ventured so very far, not yet at least, that the glow of the moon cannot penetrate its depths. Your surroundings are illuminated, though faintly, and thanks to these precious illuminations, you see the schools of fish swimming around you. Ooh, fish! The ones I ate! Their scales all glisten as they arc through the waves like rainbows. They do not look like life forms. They appear instead, to your fairy tale-addled mind, to be ancient relics brought to life through some strange arcane sorcery. They are pretty. No. That word is not significant enough. They are beautiful. You did not know, as you stood upon the shore, how very full of life it was beneath the water surface. Not with the obsidian hue that the water held. It seemed impenetrable, but now that you've penetrated it, it's different. You did not know, either, how very beautiful these aquatic denizens of the deep were. You have never seen fish like this before, not in real life. You have memories, vague, hazy memories, of dissecting a fish once in a particularly gruesome biology lesson. And also because you had to do it to eat. But that feels like a very long time ago now. You would far rather think of your present than dwell upon the past. But the seconds pass, and as they do, the mermaid continues to swim, leading you deeper and deeper into the ocean's depths. While once you were close enough to the surface that the moon's light could still slice through the waves, now it's so very dark you can scarcely see. Ah, there we go! Can't breathe! Oh, did the music just dim down a little? Am I wrong? Your vision is beginning to blur. You can feel an uncomfortable pressure weighing down on your inert body. Oh, that's true. Water pressure. You have descended, you realize, with a ripple of anxiety, too deep. Humans were not meant to descend into these depths. The water, once cold, now feels freezing. It caresses every inch of your exposed flesh, as if to sap that little warmth you might still possess. Ooh, nice kind of rhyme. You shiver, and when you do, you swear you can hear your teeth chattering, despite the water that stops your ears. The water is stopping up your nostrils. There's so much water down here at the bottom of the... Yeah, there's so much water in the whole ocean, girl. Like, it's not gonna change when you're there. It is endless. The mermaid might be able to breathe underwater, but you're not so very fortunate. Your body is far less sophisticated than hers. It requires oxygen with which to furnish your body with continued strength. Not salt water. The thought of trying to inhale the endless water which surrounds you makes you shudder. You would rather not attempt it. Well, she seems fine. You'll obviously be fine, come on. You do not have gills. When will the mermaid take you back up to the surface? I think you need to tell her, bro! Surely she must know that you have fast begun to near your limit. You have been under the water for too long, and it is too cold, and it is so dark now in any event, you cannot see much of anything. The joy you once felt during your underwater adventure has begun to dissipate, just like the last of the oxygen you still possess. It is time to return to the surface now, but how are you to communicate this to the mermaid? Tap her! Tap her! Tap her! Point at your throat! I'm choking! You cannot speak, and she is not looking at you. She is staring, instead, fixedly at something beyond your comprehension. Something far away, perhaps, in the water gloom that you cannot see. Not knowing what else to do, you try to pull your arm free from the mermaid's grasp. You hope that this will signal her that she has grown too carried away in her endeavors, that she ought to cut short your expedition and return you to the shore. The mermaid does not react, however, to your attempt to escape her. Her grip does not slacken as you had hoped about your wrists. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It feels as though she's gripping you more tightly than she was, as if to prevent your escape. But why would she do that? Why would this unknown stranger that I've known for maybe a week try to drown me? You tap on the mermaid's shoulder to get your attention, a gesture which prompts her at long last to turn. Her fair hair billows around her, suspended in the water like a shroud. I kind of like how it's turned silvery now too, compared to like the golden it was in like above the water. Then she says, in the calm, measured, incredibly reasonable voice of hers, "Yes, dear? What is it?" If you could, you would open your mouth to reply to her, but alas, you're a human girl, not a fish, and you cannot speak underwater. Any attempt to do so would accomplish naught save filling your pretty little mouth with water. The mermaid really ought to have considered that before she started to ask you questions. But your comfort seems to be the last thing on the mermaid's mind. She smiles at you, gently, delicately, then says, "I understand. Being underwater for so long must be beginning to take its toll. Do your lungs feel like iron? Are they heavy?" So she does understand your woes, but why isn't she letting me go? You might not be able to speak, suspended as you are in the dark, murky depths, but communication is not wholly impossible. You nod your head emphatically, hoping that this will be enough to make your distress apparent, but yes, yes, yes. That will happen. It is a natural part, or so I've heard, of drowning. Not that I've ever had that opportunity to experience for myself. I am, well, incapable, you see, of meeting my demise in such a matter. Now, what was that? What could she mean? Oh. The hue slightly changed. I mean, the mermaid answers, can she read minds? That this was a calculated act upon my part. Forgive me, dear one, but the moment you consented to sinking beneath the water with me, your fate was sealed. Your lungs will be flooded with water soon enough, then you will die. It is not a pretty way to go. You needn't worry about your corpse bloating, disfiguring, or being eaten by fish, though. I will take good care of it. I promise. In death, you look lovely, almost angelic. Is that not what you always wanted? You do not know what the mermaid thinks it is exactly that you want, but you do think she is laboring under some severe misunderstandings like, I don't want to drown, I don't want to die, please let me go. You would like to try and correct her, but you do not want to die. But of course you cannot open your mouth. What a pity. Well, at least it saves me the effort of transcribing your dying pleas. I doubt they would be, well, particularly interesting from a bland, boring girl like you. If you want to know why I am doing this, then I would not mind obliging. I have not kept any secrets from you. Other than the secret, perhaps, that upon your first meeting, she nursed within her cold fish heart the desire to bring about your watery murder? You might have liked to know that before you agreed to sink beneath the ocean's surface with her, or, you know, before meeting her, or even after, like, the first interaction. I am only doing this because I have no choice. The other girl I liked, after all, the one who I adored, disappeared. Oh my god, we're back to the rebound thing? Chill! She went away, and I never again afforded the opportunity to see her. You remind me of that girl, though. You do not look very much alike. You do not act very alike either. But you are human. And, despite your delicacies, have no shortage of determination. How your kind is able to live when your lifespans are so very short, and you're very susceptible to so very many diseases, is a mystery to me. Though my lifespan far eclipses your own, and I am far sturdier, I cannot help but marvel at the tenacity of you humans. I know that if I were as fragile as you are, I would not have been able to exist in this world. I would be far too afraid. I would see my own death lurking behind every corner, which I did, technically, earlier. Just as you see your own death looming before you. It is not so very far away now. You can feel it coming closer and closer, and closing its cold, icy fingers around your throat. You humans are incredible. I cannot help but respect you, weak and pitiful though you are. She respects your tenacity so very much, she wishes to extinguish it? That does not make sense. Perhaps my words are confusing you, but it makes perfect sense. To me, at least. My beloved cowherd left me. I do not know where she went, or what happened to her. Perhaps she was murdered by bandits, perhaps she contracted a horrible disease, perhaps she simply fell and cracked her skull. I do not know. I will never know. For many, many days and many, many nights, her disappearance tormented me. I cannot help but wonder how it came about. But there were so many possibilities that I could not imagine all of them. This thought terrified me. So she did it herself! So she decided that she wants to know the death, and then she did it herself! It still does. That is why I'm going to take you to my underwater kingdom with me. Then we can be together forever. Nothing will be able to tear us apart then. I will brush your hair, I will dress you in the finest pearls found from the bottom of the seabed. It will be lovely. So much lovelier than any sort of miserable existence you might be able to eke out above water. In my citadel, you will never be attacked by bandits, nor ravaged by diseases. You'll be quite safe, I promise. Quite safe, yes, and maybe dead too? Surely? Well, yes, that is the only unfortunate aspect of my plan, but it's not my fault that you can't breathe. She considered your death nothing more than a mere misfortune? The mermaid might be surprisingly cold after all, but perhaps you ought to have predicted this. She is part fish. Are fish not cold-blooded like lizards? I don't know. Fish are fish. You probably learned this at some point during biology class, but your lessons are beginning to feel very faint and far away now because you're dead and you can't breathe and your oxygen isn't cycling in your brain. Your body is beginning to fail you. You cannot take much more of this. It is a necessary sacrifice, though, if we are to be happy. We as in her! Where's my happiness? I am doing it like this, you know, for both our sakes. I do apologize for tricking you, but please understand. I really have been lonely. You would have been more inclined to sympathize with her, perhaps, if her loneliness was not ushering you into your inevitable demise. But you're too preoccupied with your dwindling reserves of oxygen to feel much in the way of anything for your captor. You can feel the pressure of the water against your eyes. They are beginning to ache. Perhaps you are crying. You do not know. The water masks so much of your anguish. You have been drifting underwater for almost 3 minutes. She's crazy, guys! This is a remarkably long time to go without air. Your vision is beginning to cloud. Your surroundings, already dark, look darker still. Unpleasant and obscure, and not at all like the paradise the mermaid promised you. The pain of being suffocated slowly is far stronger and far more oppressive than the sensation of the mermaid's hand wound tightly around your arm. Is there no escape for you? The prognosis, I am sorry to say, is grim. Your fate, as the mermaid said, really was sealed the moment you met her, luxuriating on those rocks beneath the moonlight. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. Victim blaming time! Let's go! You reap what you sow. And in your case, you made a series of bad decisions that led to your untimely demise. Look, personally, I made one decision in this whole game, this whole visual novel. I made one decision, and it was to go to the shore. Okay? Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? Oh, well, there's something called a save. Hehe. Hehehe, no. Hehehe. Fight it, man! We gotta live, bro! I like the look on your face. It is a look of determination. The self-same determination which first prompted me to take an interest in you. Oh? The narrator's interested? Oh, not the mermaid? Okay. Maybe that's why they've been following us this whole time. I can tell you are not happy with this ending. You did not come all this way, after all, to drown. This is quite the indecorous demise, regardless of how many fine stones and shells the mermaid means to twine around your hair after you die. If you wish to carve out a new story for yourself, then I would be only too happy to indulge you. Just try to not get on the bad side, or good side of any homicidal naiads this time. The drowning of fair maidens is something of a cliché. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? It's resetting? Okay, interesting. Actually, let me check to see if the endings will get me to a good end. Okay, I've got this, boys. So, let's actually go back, because I think there's like multiple endings. Let's actually go back, before we do this restart, let's get the drowning end, okay? And then we'll get the drowning end, and then we'll do the fight against your fate. It's a bit of a anticlimactic answer at this juncture in your life story, but I suppose it would remiss me to lecture you too. I'm drowning, you think I can answer? I'm sure you are well aware of what a terrible series of decisions you have made. There's no need for me to bellabore the point. That would be boorish, not to mention tedious. I'm rather tired of scolding you. So instead, I think I will content myself with loving you. What? You thought in your death the mermaid was the only one who would be able to love me? Love me? Interesting. I know I have said this before, but you really are naive. You cannot escape me, even if you are at the bottom of the deepest, darkest ocean. Oh, interesting. So, okay, no, this is actually really interesting. I'm glad I did this. The narrator is, like, maybe the person that was quote-unquote chasing us in the forest? That might have been who it was. Okay, I'm intrigued now. I will never leave you. Also, I was reading a few comments, getting a few spoilers from their itch.io page. Apparently, I'm very stupid, so I didn't realize this when I complained a little bit about not making any decisions. I think that's the point, right? Someone said that might be the point because you're kind of helpless. You don't really have a choice. You're lonely. You're looking for certain things. You can't escape, I guess is what I could say. You will never be lonely again. Cool. Okay. So we're going to load. the next one. Load this and fight against our fate. Okay. Go to the next option. And then let us go. Let's see. What was the village again? I was assuming village is... one of them is buried alive. One of them is cannibalism. Maybe. Let us go to the village. Let's go in order. We'll slowly move our way up in the ranks anyway. So you want to go to the village. Good idea. Let's see what further trials await you there. The night is far from over, as much as you wish it was, and there's still so much more to discover. I wonder what will happen next. Please don't. Now that I kind of know who you are a little bit, I'm a little scared of you. Actually, I would have liked you more if you weren't so mean. Maybe I want to be with you, You follow the path which leads to the village, supporting yourself on weary, aching limbs, which feel ready at a moment's notice to snap at the knee beneath the burden of your weight. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. Your only hope as you continue to run that you will find a suitable residence in which to rest at the village. You do not know what will await you at the village, but you have visions as you run of a quaint, scenic settlement, all thatched cottages with sloped roofs. See, I really think this is interesting. Every time the main character chooses a place, they think, oh, this is the ideal version. This is what I want to see. This is this comforting, safe thing. Maybe something they've been missing, right? So she's a little bit projecting on what she wants it to be. Surely there will be a kindly peasant who will be willing to put up with young runaway for a few nights. You can imagine, too, the face of this kindly peasant from fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. She will be broad-shouldered and ruddy-faced, with dull brown hair crammed beneath a cap. Her arms will be sturdy from many years of washing clothes and milking cows, but she will be kind to you, and compassionate. I missed that one. And compassionate, just like a mother, one that you never had too. You do not know what mothers are like. You hardly ever spoke to yours. You are only guessing. You are not a complete fool, however, despite your tenacity to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Peasants do not, as you know from your voracious reading, have much money, nor do they have much food. It might be hard to convince a resident of the village, even the kindly washerwoman of your fantasies, to take in a complete stranger. Still, you must try. You just escaped the mermaid. That is all you can do, really. So you run to the village. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you manage it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time has begun to lose all its meaning, you silly buffoon? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwell within it. Okay, this is a rather lush-looking village. It is still cold, though, and still foggy. It is still dark, too. The sun is yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, through as it hangs above your head, round as a pearl, or orb, or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the village, nestled among the hills like a diorama. Hope anew bubbles within you. You finally made it! Surely not, but your salvation awaits you. You followed the winding dirt path to the village, looking this way and that, but your hope, such a precious, fragile thing, soon begins to fade. The village, up close, does not look half as welcoming as you imagined. There are cottages, yes, but they're in a state of disrepair. There are holes in the roofs and holes in the windows. Most of the doors are tightly shut, but others are gaping open. The kitchen beyond them even darker than the night sky which shrouds you. There is no light in any of the windows, and neither can you see any people, insomniacs like you, at them. You cannot hear anything either beyond the sound of your own footsteps and the low, mournful sighs of the wind. The village is quite quiet, eerily so. It is immediately obvious, even to a naive girl such as yourself, that something terrible must have befallen this village. You know before you try your luck at one of the houses that nobody will answer you. But it's worth it to try. I mean, we really have no options left at this point again, unless we go to the castle, but that's for a later journey. There will be no kindly, red-armed washerwoman to welcome you here, no matter how much you wish for it. Please, please, can you do it? I just wanna. But that does not stop you from wishing regardless. Yeah! Your knuckles rap smartly against the wooden door. Your efforts soon prove, however, to be in vain. There's nobody here to hear your entreaties. How very sad. You try another door, then another, but the result is the same regardless of how many doors you rap upon. Nobody answers you. How could they? They're gone. They're dead. There's nobody here. Once again, you have found yourself all alone. At least, you have found some dwellings in which you can rest your weary head, and no mermaids. Screw the mermaids. They kill you. Will you utilize one of these cottages for your purposes? Nobody is here, you might as well. But no. An abandoned cottage is not what you're looking for. You would far rather have companionship, would you? Bravely, you swallow your tears. You wipe your eyes with the back of your arm in a well-practiced motion, then inhale. We've cried a lot, that's why it's a well-practiced motion. You square your shoulders, and you keep on going. Surely the village cannot be completely deserted. There must be one person here, at the very least, who can help you. That is what you are thinking as you resume your search. Yep, gotta keep that hope up so I don't collapse. You flit from cottage to cottage with precious little to show for your determination until you make yet another discovery. Ho, ho, ho! Music scared me a bit. This village with its squat thatched cottages, bathed in the moon's glow, has a church. Well, of course it has a church. The villagers who once dwelt here are not godless heathens. Not with that their faith did them all that much good in the end. They died. Definitely. Still, the sight of the church soothes your overtaxed heart. I can see the gravestones. They definitely died. You are so focused on your fantasies of the kindly washerwoman taking you in. You did not pause to entertain the fancy of a kindly nun doing the same. All hope is not lost. You approach the church, which seems to tower above you, despite being so humble. The church is a small one, but it is stout and sturdy. It must be, for it has withstood centuries, forever standing sentinel on this hill, like a relic from a bygone era. The church does not have any stained glass windows, but it does not need them. It is rather foreboding in a sense. Even without more luxurious trappings, the church still exudes the aura of dignified solemnity. The stone building is fringed by a sizable graveyard, one which occupies the rest of the hilltop and some of its sloping sides. The graves, which have been planted by generations of wardens, are hewn from a similar stone to which the church's walls are made of. Some of the gravestones are shaped like lozenges, while others are shaped like crosses. A handful of headstones are even shaped like angels, though those are few and far between. Must have been for the real good kids. There are few people in the village such as this one who can afford such luxurious final resting places. You look at the tombstone with an almost childlike curiosity, forgetting in your examination of the visceral, heart-rending fear which gripped you as you ran through the forest. As you're out in the woods now, you have subconsciously already begun to relax. You try to read the names hewn into the myriad of tombstones, but it is dark and you are tired, and some of these graves are very, very old indeed. You strain your eyes, but you do not have the luck in this endeavor. Oh well, it's not something that I need to do tonight anyway. Such superfluous details are not important. You eventually tire of examining the graves and turn. The graveyard is an expansive one, unusually so given the village itself is so small. How can it boast so many corpses? And there's so much to explore. You walk around the perimeter of the church, casting your gaze first here, then there, then everywhere, consumed as you are by your immense, all-encompassing curiosity. And, as you do, you see her. Ooh! She's pretty! But also, kind of reminds me of a creeper for some reason. She looks like an ordinary girl, small and scrawny like yourself, but she is much, much more than her unremarkable appearance might suggest. She has a shovel. Is that bloodstains or is that dirt on your shovel? That's the question. For some moments, you observe her, hiding, all the while in the shadow cast by the church like a furtive lizard clinging against a rocky edifice to shroud itself in the sun. There's no sunlight here though, so there's no need. There's only the night sky and the stars and the moon. Beneath the moon's light, a silvery implement the girl is clutching shimmers. It takes you a few moments to see what it is that the girl is clutching in her hands. It is not until you see her manipulate it, its sharp edge biting into the earth, that you understand. It's a shovel. The girl is standing in an isolated corner of the churchyard late at night, and she is digging a grave. Oh, she's digging a grave? Wait, is she digging the grave, or is she unearthing a grave? You know what I mean? Well, you suppose she could always be digging a hole for the sake of it, but her work seems much too precise for this to be the result of mere whimsy. It is hard for you to see her face, given the distance between the pair of you, but her posture is one that speaks of supreme concentration. She moves slowly, mechanically, like a woman on a mission, driving the end of her shovel into the earth over and over. Her motions are regular enough to be repetitive. There's something almost hypnotic in the manner in which she attends this task. Should you risk interrupting her? Do you dare? You get the feeling that she would not appreciate it. I mean, we could wait for her to finish. The shovel in her hands, meanwhile, is rather hefty. If she wished, she could cause you no small amount of damage with it. Oh, she's gonna knock us out. Foreboding. Cold anxiety makes her skin prickle. You do not know if you should risk speaking to her when she, in her dark cloak with her shovel, looks so very strange. But what do you have left to lose? You have come this far. It would be folly to turn back now. It is with this thought in your mind that you decide to approach the strange girl. Your footsteps are quiet, you have been accustomed to slinking around like a cat, but they are not quiet enough. The girl's senses must be finely tuned because she blinks. Oh, hello! Then she turns. Your eyes meet, and once they do, you feel your breath catch in your throat. You did not have a clear view of the girl before, concealed as you were in the shadows, but now she's looking at you. And you can tell that she's pretty, bro! She's pretty! Her skin is very smooth, and her hair, though obscured by a dark hood, is very fair. Her eyes, meanwhile, are clear, cool blue, like ice. Cold. Those eyes of her, which are large with unease, are fringed with very long, fair eyelashes. She looks as though she stepped out of the pages of a picture book, might also be because she's 2D. She's simply too perfect to belong in this world. Perhaps she is some kind of vision, a walking dream, a hallucination. But no, she's none of these things. The shovel she is clutching in her hands looks solid enough, its pointed tip glittering wickedly in the moonlight. You steel yourself, expecting perhaps some sort of outburst, but the tension soon drains from the girl's slender shoulders. Her fingers, which once were gripping the handle of her shovel tightly, relax, yeah, so we're not gonna die yet. Her lips curve upward at the edges. She is smiling, and wow, what a smile it is! It's like quaint, if I am to say the smile. It's a quaint smile. It is transformative. When she smiles, she looks radiant, angelic almost. Here is a smile that is so suffused with light that your eyes begin to prickle from it. You are so relieved. You feel as if you could cry. You know what I've got from this girl so far, though? The main character? Simp energy. As you should be, queen. It should not be the first time you have wept during this night, and neither would it be too surprising if you did. You have been through a lot. You must be exhausted. The girl holding the shovel seems to realize this because she bridges the distance between you cautiously, as one might approach a skittish cat. Then she says in a rough voice, which does not match her dainty appearance, "Well, she does live in a rural village. What are you expecting?" What's a rough voice? Oh. I'll just do this one. Oh. No? Oh. Give me a second to figure this one out. I don't think I have enough ability to go with a rough voice, so I'll just turn it down a little. Oh, it's so good to see another person. I was afraid I was the only person left alive, the only one in the whole world. Now this is quite the effusive greeting. Her introductory speech is riddled with exclamation marks. She is rather more personable than her apparel would make one suggest. You, a well-bred young lady, cannot help but feel overwhelmed. It is your turn now to be on guard. Anxiously, you observe the girl with the shovel and you ask her what she means. What happened? Oh, do you not know? There's an awful lot you do not know, so much that it would fill an encyclopedia. No, a whole library. You shake your head, ashamed at your ignorance, and the girl frowns. You mustn't be around from these parts. I guess I should have known. This village is a small one, and everyone here knows everybody else. The girl's expression falls. At least they used to, back when they were still people to know. That ain't the case now, though. Not after the plague. There was a plague? Yeah, well, I mean, I guess all of these tombstones exist. That would certainly explain why the village, when you walked through it, was so quiet. Did everyone else succumb to this mysterious illness? That's right. It's just me around here. I've never seen another human being in a long, long time. It gets so lonely here. Tagline number 2. Woo! Now that's an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? Uh-huh. It does. I have. From the mermaid. You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the girl takes a step towards you. Oh, but where are my manners? They must have gotten rusty after being on my own for so long. My apologies, miss. You look like you've come a long way. You said you're a traveler, yes, and... whoa, your hands are very cold, just like ice. Would you like to come inside? Maybe have something warm to eat and to drink? My home's small, I'm afraid, and my food ain't nothing fancy, but I'd be more than willing to share. It's not every day another girl stops by, especially not one as pretty as yourself. I'm feeling very blessed. The girl laughs, a carefree, airy sort of laugh, which does not match your initial impression of her. Ha ha ha! You thought when you saw her among the graves that she would be more distant somehow and more mysterious. Perhaps you're mixing her up with someone else. You are still very unsure if you trust this girl, but her invitation is an appealing one. It is much more appealing, certainly, when spending the night outdoors in the cold, kipping on the graves. What are you, a romantic poet? I mean, they've been speaking this whole time that way. Please. You make a show of pondering the girl's invitation, at the very least. You do not want to appear too eager, but your acquiescence is, alas, an inevitability. Why would you ever refuse her? She's too pretty for that, and she's giving you food. She is the first friendly face you've seen all night. Without her, you would be all alone. Your hostess leads you to a small, humble home, located but a stone's throw away from the church, built in the shadows of a twisted, towering sycamore. The girl's home is in such a state it seems folly to even call it a home. Hovel would, to you, be the more appropriate descriptor. That's a bit rude, don't you think? But when your hostess leads you inside, her eyes alive, and she says, "Here we are, home sweet home." You don't have the heart to tell her that you don't find her home very homey or very sweet. That would be incredibly rude. As a guest, you ought to be more appreciative. Half-heartedly, You look around your newfound surroundings. It's not that bad. The ceiling is supported by wooden joints and is perilously low. Not so much that you're in danger of bumping your head, but just enough to feel claustrophobic. There is a fire in the corner, though it's not consigned to a grate. The fire instead is blazing in the open, a circle of logs set alight like a scene from a witch's kitchen. She's a witch, guys! She's a witch! Above the fire hangs a silvery pot, suspended from one of the wooden eaves. Other objects of interest are hung around the eaves, iron implements you take for cooking utensils, various herbs, and strips of meat left to cure. The smell of cooking fills the air, mingled with the sharp, sour scent of unwashed bodies. Ew, stinky! How, you wonder, does your hostess clean herself? You do not see a bathtub anywhere. Perhaps she does not possess one. The girl's home is unremarkable in every regard, but it is, you suppose, better than nothing. At least there's a roof above your head and food to put in your belly. Oh, she took her hood off. The girl looks to the pot suspended above the fire, then she gives a stir with the ladle. Then she brings the ladle to her lips to taste whatever concoction she's brewing with it, like a witch. You can only hope that she is not like the weird sisters from the famous play, brewing a broth with fennel snake fillets. Yeah. I think this is just about done, the girl says to nobody in particular. She's talking to herself, let her talk. She sets the ladle down back in the pot, then looks at you and smiles. Do you want something? It looks as though you've come quite a long way. You must be hungry. Those words are like music to your ears, even more divine than the trumpet of God's most loyal angels. You are so hungry, you could eat a horse. Not that there are any horses in the immediate vicinity, but you could eat one. You express your interest to your hostess, who smiles in response. I thought you'd like the sound of that. Just give me a few moments. Your hostess retrieves 2 earthenware bowls from a cupboard with rickety hinges, into which she pours 2 hefty helpings of, whatever she's cooking. This she serves with bread, which is so hefty it could be used as a murder weapon. Aw, yeah! Self-defense! It is not much, I'm afraid. It's only soup and bread. It would take the edge of your appetite, though. You thank your hostess for her hospitality, your stomach rumbling all the while. The soup does not look like anything you would typically consume, but the soup's poor presentation does not dissuade you. It is true enough that people eat first with their eyes, but when one is hungry enough, one becomes obliged to almost eat anything. True. Why else do you think there are people who are stranded upon desert islands will resort to cannibalism? What are you saying, game? I thought this was the buried alive route. What are you saying? Is this both? Are you burying me alive and cannibalizing? Humans are creatures of necessity. You like to wrap yourself in pretensions, but in actuality, you're not much better than animals. You're so hungry and your stomach is achingly empty that you certainly descend upon your food like an animal. Your teeth glint, your incisors gleam, and soon you have consumed all of your hostess has offered you. I already know the terminology, how it's working. Maybe, in a sense, to her, you will become an animal, and then she'll eat you. So she's raising you like livestock right now. Your hostess watches you eat, and then she giggles once you've finished. Did you enjoy that? Oh. You catch your hostess's gaze, suddenly abashed. You were so hungry that you failed to account for her judgment. Now you have food in your belly, though, and you have been suitably warmed. Your old self-consciousness is returning. Did you not make a fool out of yourself? You demur shyly, looking at your lap, fearful all the while of what your hostess might think of you. You do not want her to take against you. Fortunately for you, however, that's her thing! For your fragile ego, your hostess is not judgmental. Yeah, because that's her thing! She's not like the girls you grew up with. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's nice to see my food being appreciated so heartily. I know I'm not the best, but I've been practicing for a long time. I used to cook for my pa all the time, you see. The remark catches your attention. Quizzically, you look at your hostess, your abashment over your animalistic eating habits suspended. What happened to her father? It seems a grim thing to contemplate after having eaten, but didn't your hostess mention something about a plague? Yeah, the hostess says, her voice soft now and serious. That's right. There was a plague. And what of the villagers? What of her father? They're all gone now. Gone? Yeah, you see... Your hostess rearranges herself upon her chair, one slender leg folded over the other. Then she begins her tale in earnest. My family has a history. We lived here for centuries by the church, so we tend to the graveyard. Ah, so this abodes to centuries old then, okay. Would certainly explain the dirt. That's a bit rude, don't you think? My father used to prepare bodies for burial back when he was alive. He built the coffins, he dug graves, and he lowered the coffins into the dirt. I know it might sound like an awful job, but somebody's gotta do it. There's no sense averting our eyes from death, not when it happens to the best of us. It's a noble profession, one that's been handed down in our family for generations. My father's father was a gravedigger, and so was my father's father's father, and my father's 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 father. Digging graves is in our blood. It's who we are. My. That was a surprisingly pretty speech coming from a girl who lives in the countryside. A girl who is without much in the way of education. That's still a bit rude. It is apparent just to listen to her, the way she slurs her syllables together, that she never had any Elotian lessons, not like you. Yeah, I speak good. I speak good! There's a determination, however, to her. A pride in her genealogy that gives her a respectable aura. You cannot help but be impressed. So you ask your hostess, does this make her one in a long line of gravediggers? Yes, your hostess, the gravedigger says. That's about right. Though I've never supposed to be a gravedigger myself. Not a woman's profession, that's what everyone says, and my father didn't mind that though. He taught me what he knew and then some. I might be a woman, but I have plenty of upper body strength. I can dig a grave just as well as my father could, without breaking a sweat. To the despair of my mother up in the heavens, I'm sure. Hey, fuck you, Mom! I'm sure if she was alive, she'd rather I focus on something more feminine pursuit like basket weaving or sewing to better attract a suitor, but who needs those? We're in a Yuri visual novel. Not that would do much good now. There's nobody around who'd court me, not for miles and miles. That you rapped! And what happened to her mother? She died when I was very young, and during childbirth I was only 5 years old. Oh, well, you can relate to her at least upon this point. Your parents are not dead, or at least not as far as you are aware. But you haven't seen them in an awfully long time. They sent you away as soon as you were old enough, and they never even bothered to check on you again. For many years there were no letters, nor any visits. You offer the gravedigger your condolences. Sucks that your pa's dead, and sucks that your ma's dead. You do not know if they will help, but you feel like you cannot say anything that would seem heartless. The gravedigger, however, does not seem too upset by this turn of events, because she smiles, albeit somberly. It's alright, it was ages ago. I don't remember her too well, and I've never had the luxury of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I had too much work to do. Around the house, you ask? No, digging graves for the plague, you fool! That too. I was the oldest child, so it was my job after my mother died to manage the sweeping and the cooking and, looking after all my siblings too. You blink, intrigued, then glance about your hostess's humble lodgings. You do not see any siblings in the immediate vicinity, because they died from the plague, you fool! Where could they be? In the ground! The gravedigger must have noticed your roving eyes. You're not exactly subtle. Because she shakes her head. I had siblings. 2 younger brothers. They're both gone now. Oh. You should have known. Yes, you should have known. You apologize to the gravedigger for your lack of tact, but she does not seem upset by this faux Pow, pow, pow. Don't apologize, not your fault. My brothers weren't long for this world anyway. The youngest, he died when he was still a babe, and the oldest, he died before he reached double digits. I was upset at the time, of course, but I've come to terms with it. Life's a fleeting thing in this wicked old world. There's some you learn in this trade. Digging graves, I mean. I've dug graves for the elderly and the infirm. I've also dug graves for young babies still in their swaddling clothes. That's the nature of death. It comes for all of us in the end. No matter how old we are, no matter how much money we have, no matter how good or bad we've been. It's the great equalizer, except some can live longer if they have more money, let's be real. Or so I've heard. A chill creeps down your spine as you listen to your hostess's speech. Oh? She's not wrong, but the inherent morality of all humankind is not something you wish to contemplate. I mean, I would kinda like to think about it. It is too disturbing. For the longest time, my family was a small one. It was just my pa and me. But that was fine, it was how I liked it. I was very happy, even if our lives weren't the best. I never had any fancy clothes to wear, and we can't dine on the finest foods. In the grand scheme of things, we ain't anything that special, but I always felt otherwise. The occupation of gravedigger is pretty special, if I'm being honest. I thought that I was blessed. We knew hardship, of course, and famine, but that's just the way life is around here. When food supplies are low, we always helped one another out. I had my father, but I also had the rest of the village. We all looked after one another, and things always worked out in the end. At least, they did. Until the plague happened. Yeah, she had mentioned the plague. You've been wondering when she was going to return to that topic. You suppose that the plague is the reason that the village, as you traversed it, was so empty? So you'd suppose right. The plague tore through the village. I don't remember when. Feels like it was a while ago, but maybe it wasn't all that long after all. Feels like I've been on my own for centuries, but... Your hostess's eyes begin to cloud over. She looks at you as though she's entrenched within her own memories. What could she be remembering? You have never seen a plague before, though you have heard about them in your history class. Ah, seeing versus knowing. Your history professor was quite enthusiastic about the subject. Man, a little weird, don't you think? She talked about piles of dead bodies stacked up on the streets and stacked up on the wooden carts come to take them away with no short of a plume. She was a strange woman, your history professor. The plague came on very sudden. There was no warning. One day everyone was fine, and the next, everyone was dead. Yep, they were all dead. It was with no small amount of anxiety that you eyed the gravedigger. Then you ask worldly, surely they could not have all died? Is that not an exaggeration? Oh, if only. I wish I was exaggerating, but the truth, honest to God. The people in the village died, one after the other, just like that. I saw that what the plague does to people firsthand. My father was one of the first people that caught it. I thought I think one of the bodies which came through which you buried must have had it. Not that I know for certain, I'm just guessing. Still, my father didn't have an easy time with it. His skin turned all gray and clammy, and he complained of a horrible fever. There were night sweats and stomach cramps, and then poof, he was gone. And then there were boils. Ugh. The boils? Pustules. They were They were the size of eggs and they were full of pus. Then they burst. It stunk. The whole house was full of it, the stink of death. The wise woman of the village came to see if she could be of any good, but it was no use. Wow, I missed those words. Bad. My father was too far gone already. She took one look at him, lying on his deathbed, and shook her head. She said she didn't want to get any closer. I mean, valid. I can't say I blame her. It was a ghastly sight. I didn't appreciate it at the time, though. Felt like she was turning her back on us. I wished her ill. I remember that after she left. Till a few days passed, and she fell sick too. Then I felt bad for cursing her. I couldn't help but worry that it was all my fault. It's silly, I know, but The gravedigger closes her eyes. She seems to squeeze her lids together until her lashes melt like flecks of fallen snow. Her shoulders, which are very slender, are shaking. She looks as though she might at any moment fall apart. So, are we gonna keep talking about this? Okay. It wasn't long after that the rest of the village fell ill. They all had the same symptoms as my father. So your father is... what's it called? Not victim. Patient 0? Patient number? I don't know. What's it called when they get, like, they're the first one to show signs of it? It's your father. They all had the same symptoms as my father. The clammy skin and the fever and the boils. My question is, you were close proximity with your father too. Why aren't you dead? The boils... Ah! Ah! The boils grew, and then they burst, and then they died in screaming stinking agony. My father died too, only 3 days after he fell ill, but I think even that was 3 days too many. I don't want my father to die, of course. I did everything I could to help him, but it was all pointless. None of my herbal salves, slaps, had any impact. I couldn't make a blind bit of difference. All I did was stand around his bedside telling him he'd be alright until his skin sank into his skull, like 2 black stones, and his mouth dried out. During the last day before he died, he might have been a corpse already. He didn't look at me, he didn't speak at me, he just laid in his bed, his eyes closed, groaning. I'd never wished any ill on my father before, but during those moments, the gravedigger squeezes her hand, which was resting upon her black-clad lap and fist. She trembles. Then, in a voice throbbing with awful emotion, she says, "I wish he just died." That was very emotional, guys. I hate to tell you, that was super emotional. Take it off face value. Well, based on her anecdote, it doesn't sound like she had a overly long wait. I wonder if she would consider that a silver lining. No, don't say it to her. Don't! That's rude! No! No, perhaps not. The gravedigger is still shaking. She will not cry, will she? I don't know how to comfort people that cry. You hope not. Awkwardly, you look at the gravedigger. You're not sure how to soothe her, but you know you must make some sort of effort, even if it's a token one. You shift upon your chair, which feels very cold and hard beneath your thighs. Then you say very softly that you are sorry. It's not much, but it's all you can think of saying. You had thought initially that your situation was comparable to that of the gravedigger, but now you see that's not the case. Her suffering had far outstripped your own. Not that suffering is a competition, of course, but it is what it is. Your apology feels inadequate to your ears, largely because, well, it is, but the gravedigger does not seem to mind it. She's very big-hearted, that girl, to smile at you so, no matter how foolish you might be. Do you really deserve such kindness? Oh, again with the apologies. It's alright, like I said. You didn't cause any of it. I'm not upset at you, I'm just disappointed. I'm just recounting what happened is all. I do wonder, though, why I never felt sick myself. I wonder that too. I thought I was gonna die, so I'd already prepared for the Reaper to come and take me away. But maybe he wasn't interested. Maybe he'd already satisfied his appetite on all the others. Maybe he decided they needed a gravekeeper. That, or maybe he thought he'd have to leave me alive for practicality's sake. Yeah, for the graves. With my father gone, who else would tend to the dead? I'm the only person left by the end of it all, so I had to bury the people in the village. They're all resting peacefully now under the earth, where the plague can't reach them. On the other hand, I'm happy for them. They were able to escape from all their suffering. When I think about all the people I've lost, though, I'm not the one escaping from my suffering. How rude of them to leave me. The gravedigger tenses. Then she sniffs. When I think about the kindly washerwoman who helped me scrub the mud and dirt from my clothes. Aha! So this village did have a fair share of washerwomen after all. It would seem your earlier insistence upon this particular point was not without merit, but it's kind of not the moment for that. And the handsome young farmhands who used to flirt with me. The priest who preached at the church, who told us wonderful tales of paradise, and the children who would skip stones on the lake and play hopscotch in the streets. I can't help but feel lonely, 'cause it gets so lonely here. The gravedigger's eyes began to shine when she finished her address, with tears, but she did not let them fall. She is being very brave, much more so than you are. Ew, disgusting. Coward. Anxiously, you extend your hands towards her, meaning to what? Give her a hug? You barely know her. You do not know her well enough. Pat her head? Well, you also do not know her well enough. That would be infantilizing. Squeeze her hand? Perhaps that could be misconstrued as a romantic overture, and that is the last thing you want, especially in this moment. You endured more than your fair share of teasing over that. You sit there for a few moments, paralyzed by indecision, as the gravedigger poorly suppresses her sniffles. In the end, you let your arm drop back to your side. Your hand rests upon your lap, as useful as a damp kindling. Man, narrator's still so mean. You do not know what to do with it. You do know that you ought to say something, though, to show that you heard her plight and that you care. You do not know what this something should be, however. No words could ever console the gravedigger. They would never be enough. They can offer some balm, however, to the bereaved, and so, after a pause just long enough to be awkward, you offer your condolences. What else can you say? Oh no, the gravedigger replies, wiping a few stray tears away with the back of her arm. It's alright. I've grown used to it, really, being on my own. I mean, it ain't so bad, really. And I'm not alone now, at least. I've met you. You'll keep me company, won't you? Because I get so lonely here. Well, what can you say to that? You aren't callous enough to trample this poor girl's hopes, are you? Gaslight. You know full well how awful that feels. Low-key gaslight, but true. You can feel nothing, you can do nothing but nod, a response which makes the girl smile more widely still. It's such a cute smile, though. That's wonderful. I know you're just a traveler who's passing through, but I can offer you bread and board until you leave. I have food enough and a spare bedroom. I can make it up for you right now. You must be tired after your long journey. Just give me a moment. The gravedigger rises to her feet in a flurry of excitement, then retreats. She comes back with the machete and she chalks me up. You watch as she departs, a little too eager to please and frown. The girl's home is a small, humble one with low ceilings and slanted walls. You cannot imagine a small dwelling possessing a spare bed. Can you not be so mean? Come on. This so-called spare bedroom is, in all likelihood, the room her father slept in before the plague carried him off. Oh. Yeah, no, that's kind of gross. You do not think that you would much like to spend the night in the room of a dead man, but what choices do you have? You're tired, wretchedly so. Why, it is all you can do to keep your eyes open. While you were running through the forest, desperate to escape pursuer, you had no thought in mind besides finding some safe sanctuary in which you could recuperate. Now that you've found sanctuary, it would be unreasonable to find faults with it. You ought to learn to be more thankful of what you have. There are many, many people in the world with less. I mean, there are people with left too, left-handed people, but we don't care about them. Who are left-handed people? You rise and follow the gravedigger. Once she finished her preparations to her so-called spare bedroom, which is every bit as cramped as you feared it'd be. Yeah, honestly, that's pretty big. At least there's a bedroom, or at least there's a bed in the bedroom, which comes at something of a relief. The rest of the lodging was so humble you half expected a straw pallet. As tired as you may be, you cannot lie to yourself. You have no desire to sleep among the hay like an animal. The sheets of the bed are clean, too, a fact that you discern with a cursory glance. So, you will not be expected to sleep upon the sweat-soaked linen of a plague-ridden man after all. This really is your lucky day. I got you this too, the gravedigger says somewhat shyly as she hands you a folded gown. To sleep in. I thought it might come in handy. Your clothes are a little, shabby. She can say that again. Your skirt's covered in mud and the hem is torn and ragged. This nightgown is one of my old ones, so it suffered a bit of wear and tear, but I hope it'll fit alright. It's clean if nothing else. You accept the nightgown from your benefactress with words of thanks. You want to sound appropriately appreciative, but you cannot mask your fatigue. Weariness overcomes you and you yawn, a fact the gravedigger does not fail to notice. Oh, beg your pardon, I don't want to keep you. I'll be making myself scarce if you need anything, though. Don't hesitate to ask. I'd be happy to help. And off she goes. The gravedigger bows her head to you like a drooge, then hurries off, closing the door behind her with a thud. Tired though you are, you soon find that you rather miss your hostess's company. In the face of her good-natured smile, you can almost forget all the hardship you had hitherto endured. Yes, and then we have to think about the future ones where she buries us, and maybe eats us. In her absence, however, your lodging feels almost unbearably cold and inhospitable. You suppress a shudder, then unclothe yourself. You work as quickly as you are able, but your fingers are cold and they fumble with the buttons of your blouse. It takes you more time than you would like to complete this endeavor, but soon have your shirt and skirt dispensed with. You are too tired to fold them neatly, so you do not bother to fold them at all. Instead, you cast them carelessly upon the floor, as defiant as a sulky child. Then pull on your— what do you say? What are you saying about me? I do that sometimes. Then pull on your new nightgown. Your hostess's earlier warnings were apt enough. It is quite worn, but it fits well enough. It is more comfortable, at least, than your old uniform. You have endured worse. Newly dressed and ready for bed, you loosen your hair from the braids and settle among the sheets. It is with a sigh you extinguish the weakly flickering candlelight which burns on your bedside, and with another sigh that you lie down your head upon the pillow. Though physically exhausted, you have to wonder whether you will be able to sleep at all. Ooh, 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 heartbeat. You can recall your previous dash through the forest in such vivid detail your heart is still pounding. The fear has yet to leave you. Perhaps it will never leave you, just like the narrator will never leave you. Your terror was such, it almost feels as though it's suffused itself into your bones. It's your very being. But your exhaustion is greater than your worldly anxieties, and soon it claims you. Your eyelids fall shut, and your breathing, inevitably, begins to even out. It is not long until you are spiraling through a deep, dark abyss, lost in Morpheus's kingdom. But your sleep, despite your wearied state, is not as restorative as you hoped. Your imagination has always been overactive. Even at the conservatoire, you were frequently beset by dreams of the most vivid nature. The dreams that you have this night, lying beneath unfamiliar sheets upon a familiar bed, are no less intense than usual. In your dreams, you are back at the conservatoire, in the place where this adventure of yours began. You're wearing a crisp white blouse that you once discarded and your gray unremarkable skirt. Your hair is tied in braids, and your eyes are downturned, forever focused on your feet. Man, my shoes are so cool! That's why I'm looking at my feet all the time! You tried to look at your classmates and you thought yourself fortunate if they did not look at you in return. You did not want anyone to notice you. Until that awful winter. That is, when everyone stopped paying attention to you for good. No one tried to trip you when you walked past them in the hallways. No one, in fact, so much glanced at you. All of a sudden, there was no malicious whispers, no wicked laughter, no pulled hair, and no thrown objects. You were giddy with relief at first over this newfound means of tormenting you that your classmates had devised. But this little game, that of complete and utter disregard, continued on, and on, and on, as the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer. As time passed, you began to fret as the state of your own corporeality. Maybe I was dead. Could anyone really see you? Did you even exist at all? Then, at long last, you found it, quite by accident, the source of all your woes. One of the girls had erected it in the forest, the which you were sometimes bidden to jog for PE class, beneath the shade cast by an old oak tree. It was a makeshift tombstone, a small meager monument made of stone, upon which one of your classmates had hewn a name. Your name. So yeah, each character, and probably the demise part of it, relates to our character in general. So like their past experiences. With the mermaid, it was drowning. She got dunked into the fountain, she drowned maybe. And this one, she's gonna be buried alive. Your name. I like that movie. Good movie. Your name was fun. You knew at once, as you stood there, standing beneath the shade of the ancient tree, that this was the reason behind your classmates' silence. This is why they had, for so many months, been ignoring you so assiduously. I've been wondering, do the teachers not notice this? Or maybe are they not doing anything about it? Because they're all high-class ladies. Maybe the teachers can't do anything? They had buried you. In their hearts, you had already died. Oop. Okay, so we're gonna end it here. It's running a little bit long. And so, now that we've made the connection between death and we're assuming she might cannibalize us, but we'll never know until the next time, I'm gonna end things here. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!